And welcome to the Extra Point. I'm Jim Funderburg along with Coach Kevin Klein. And Kevin, I'll tell you what, last week was a difficult week of football for you guys, man, to say the least.
It was. You know, we knew it was going to be a challenge coming into that game, and really it was a tale of two halves. And fortunately, we came out second half, played much better than what we did the first half.
Let's talk a little bit about the first half, because I don't know that you can ever start a game any worse than what you do, you know? Whenever you kick that first kickoff and it goes back on you, you know, for 80 plus, that makes it pretty tough.
Yeah, probably I guess the irony in the whole thing is we had just talked about it before they went out to kick it off. We had debated about squibbing it or kicking it deep, and we knew they had some pretty dangerous returners. And I thought Josh Jones was kicking pretty well in pregame. I said, you want to give one a try here? I said, all right. So try to put it down inside the 10 then. And I was like, hey guys, cover guys, make sure you get down and cover this. You know, don't let this come back on us. I think is the last thing I said. And sure enough, we kick it off, and they took it all the way back for a touchdown. So, you know, fortunately our kids didn't get down too much on that, and we were able to battle back later. But yeah, that's not how you want to start a game.
And for them, I think, to me, it seemed like Swanton still, even though they're a much better football team, were looking for that break. They were looking for that spark. They were looking for something to get them going.
They got a couple of them early in that game. I think that swung the momentum definitely in their favor, and then they came out and played well and executed well, not just on that kickoff return, but offensively they had a couple big plays on us, and defensively they got a quick 3 and out, I think, on our second series. So, you know, they came a little bit more ready to play than what we were.
Sure. I can tell you in the press box, everybody in the press box before the game were all very hesitant. I mean, they were, well, you know, you guys look pretty big. You guys look pretty tough. You're a pretty good football team. Now, by halftime, we're talking state playoffs. We're talking Delta Swanton, final week of the season. We're high-fiving, and it's a pretty humble place for a guy with the wrong color purple on that night,
Yeah, a lot of purple out there, that's for sure. And, you know, I didn't know what we were going to get either. But I think having school off, we were off last Friday. I know they were too. I think it affected us, seemed to affect us a little bit more than what it did them. I think the long trip over there and stuff, it just, I think a lot of our kids didn't get up and get around during the day. I think some of them slept in and laid around. So we were a little lethargic to start the game, and I think their kids are just more ready to go. And fortunately enough, we responded at the half. You know, I really didn't know what we were going to get coming out the second half. I knew we were a better team than what we played. And it was just kind of hoping that we would play better the second half, and we could get some things going in our favor, get some momentum on our side, and we were fortunate enough that happened. And I tell you, a night and day difference defensively for us. Defensively, you know, second half we got a lot of stops, and we needed those. Did you make a change on the defensive line in the second half? Did you go bigger at all? Did it seem like you guys we
went
rotated,
a little bit?
We had planned on rotating some more guys in this week. You know, it was just a matter of us playing better technique and doing some things a little different up front than what we were doing the first half. First half we were just kind of giving away that dive play especially, and so second half we wanted to make them earn it a little bit more and get back to some of the basics of what we do defensively.
Well, I'll tell you did a nice job that way, getting it back. Did I notice and did I call a little more of David Rummel's name that evening?
Yeah.
He seemed like he had a good night.
He had a really nice night for us. I think stat-wise, David Rummel, Derek Nisley, and Zach Dean were our top 3 guys in terms of tackles. But we got some big plays out of a lot of guys. Sawyer Miller had a couple tackles in there, a couple plays. And of course, Drew Ridgway had a couple TFLs and stuff that were really big for us. And I know he had one big hit there that got us kind of fired up on the sideline and got our kids really excited. And that last big hit he had in that last series, too, he had a big hit at that point in time. Again, those kind of things fire us up and get us excited. And Nate Rao played really solid for us as well. You know, he's not in on a lot of tackles, but 2 picks for us. And did a pretty good job covering the receivers. And even on that last play, they went at him a little bit, and he defended that play pretty well.
Brandon Dean, in the second half, we missed it. I gave that 80-yard touchdown pass to Brandon to Creek, to Paris or to Derek Nisley, I'm sorry, and then realized on the next series that we'd already brought Blues Creek in. So Brandon, I guess, was injured on that touchdown run. Is that what happened?
Yeah, he was. Our first possession of the third quarter, Brandon was in on that play, and then we got down inside the 5, and he ran one in, and on that very play, he had turned his ankle a little bit, and I was unable to go the rest of the game. So we got Creek warmed up, and he stepped in and did a really nice job for us. So it was a nice little 1-2 punch there with them. You know, Brandon's been running the ball so well for us, and really does a nice job of his leadership and those kind of things, and did a nice job getting the quick throws out. And Creek's a little bit different. You know, he throws a long ball pretty well, and you know, he's got different skill sets as well. So I thought those two really complemented each other in that game, and I thought Blues did a tremendous job coming in and playing for us when he had to. You know, spot on play, and you got to come in and play right now, and he did that.
He really did, and that throw to Derek Nisley was a perfect throw. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a high school kid throw a ball any better than that one.
Pretty big play for us too. You know, we needed to get some big plays in that second half, and that was one of them.
Now, does that spark any kind of controversy quarterback-wise? I'm sure that's been the topic around coffee shops and everything.
You know, I don't think there's any doubt that Brandon's still going to be our guy back there. But you know, we might package some things up and get Blues in there a little bit. I think he proved that he can play at that level, and that he can do a nice job back there. But you know, Brandon's still our leader, and he's still going to be the starting quarterback come Friday, as long as he's able to go. And it looked like, you know, yesterday he was moving around pretty well. So I think by Friday he'll be just fine.
I think you said to me Friday night after the game too that the biggest cheerleader that Blues had on the sideline was Brandon.
Yeah, and again, that's a credit to his character and who he is as a person. And I don't think you'll find with him and his brother Zach, you won't find two higher quality people. You know, I would take a whole team of Brandon and Zach's out there. They're just great kids that do things the right way and really work hard. And you know, they understand what their role is sometimes, and they don't complain about things. They just roll up their sleeves and get to work, and they're tough kids. And I would definitely take them in a heartbeat. You know, and he understood at that point in time he couldn't go. Blues was our best option for winning the game, and you know, like you said, he was the biggest supporter out there of Creek and what he was doing.
Yeah, fantastic. It was a big win, and it was a win that you needed, because gosh, to have lost to Delta the week before and then lost to Swanton, we'd be talking about a whole different scenario right now. Yeah,
you know, and it's we always talk about our seasons being 2 seasons. You know, you have the first 5 games, and of course you have the last 5 games, and then hopefully you're getting one more season in there with the playoffs.
Heck yeah.
And you know, I think you know, the way we wanted to end the first 5 games, would like to have gotten off to a better start, but you know, we could have asked for a better effort out of our kids in that second half, and we were able to close out the first 5 games with a win, and finished off that set with a 4-1 record. So now we'll get ready for this next set.
Yeah, that's all you can do. And it's hard, as you said, I think the last time, it's hard to imagine we're at the midway point already.
Yeah, that's crazy. It goes so fast.
It does. It just goes so fast. Damon Belts, I think before we to move on, I think we have to talk a little bit about him too, because he really gave you a spark running that football on Friday night too.
Yeah, you know, we really missed him versus Delta. You know, Damon's skill sets, he's the pounder. He's going to run the ball downhill, and he's a tough kid. And just those nitty-gritty, you know, 3-yard runs, 5-yard runs, and you know, sometimes he's able to break free a little bit and drag some guys with him, and he's just such a powerful runner. We need that, and I think we missed that quite a bit against Delta, and getting him back into the fold and getting him back healthy was pretty big for us this past week.
Coming back like that in the second half, could that maybe be the spark you're needing to pull everybody together and get them ready to go?
You hope so. As a team, you hope you learn some things from it, and you hope that got our attention. We understand that we still need to work on some things and get better at some things, and you know, we have a lot of good teams left and high quality teams left on the schedule, and you hope that this is something that we can build off of and you know, finish off these last 5 games with some success and get ourselves in the playoffs.
Well, I can tell you that the press box got a lot quieter, okay, as the evening went on. All right, yeah. And at the very end, you know, after you guys pulled off the win and scored 28 unanswered on them there in the second half, everybody kind of left that place very quickly. and they moved on out, as they often will. But that is going to be a darn good football team. There's still a lot of juniors there.
Yeah, you know, they only had like 5 or 6 seniors, I think, in their starting rotation. So it's a young team that's gotten much better than they were a year ago, very quickly. And you know, I think in the future they're going to be one of the tougher teams in the league. There's no doubt about that. And they're very well coached over there with Mike Vickers and what he's done. And you know, of course, his track record and where he's been and how he's turned programs around. And then you throw Tim Spees in there with him, and Tim's a great guy and has done a great job, you know, with Mike at Genoa and then on his own. And we saw him last year in the playoffs. You know, so they're used to changing teams and changing cultures and getting teams into playoffs, and I think they got this team on the right track.
Man, and the bad news from talking to some of those guys up there, they claim the pipeline's pretty deep too. Freshman year, 8th grade, 7th grade, all of a sudden they're becoming one of the better attended programs. A lot of kids.
And you got to get numbers, and right now they dress as many as what we had out there, and they've got good numbers all the way through their program. So, I think they'll be one of the teams, and I know people in Swanton are excited about that. It's been since the 90s, since they've really had a lot of success. They've had bits and pieces here and there, but I think they're trying to get their program on track where they're consistently good year after year, and I think they're on their way.
Fantastic. Well, it was a great night. Anybody that was there, anybody who was listening to the ball game or watched the replays or whatever, gosh, as I told you at the end of the game, you seem to amaze me. Last year was always, okay, it's 4th down and 19, and we need the first down to keep things going, and we found a way.
We had a couple of those in that game.
We sure did.
Convert some 3rd downs and 4th downs again, and I think I keep getting more gray and less hair on top. So, so it's definitely stressful for coaches, that's for sure. But really proud of how our kids responded and the way they finished that game off.
Fantastic. That was in the books. When we come back, we'll look ahead at the homecoming game here on the Extra Point. Well, Coach, it doesn't get any easier week after week after week. Now you have Evergreen coming in on homecoming. Obviously, Evergreen not having the best year that they had, and their numbers are just the opposite of Swanton. They're down a little bit number-wise.
They don't have a lot on their roster. I think they only have like 37 or something like that, but they return quite a few kids. I think they have 7 returners on both sides of the ball. Some really good athletes, and you had mentioned, they're a team that struggled last year and actually finished the season at 0-10, and they're already off to a 2-3 start. So they're playing a lot better ball than what they were a year ago, and I think that's due to the experience and some of the returners that they have coming back.
They play a wing T look. And that's always kind of different. Or have they changed? Have they changed on film?
Away from that, they still do a little bit of it, but they're more of a spread look. When you watch them on film now, I think what they've discovered is with the skills and the talent that they have a really good receiver, and whole league receiver back from last year, and the Brighton kid, and he does a nice job out there at wideout, and then their quarterback can throw it around and runs pretty well. So they've gone more of a spread look this year, and they kind of dabble in the wing T. They still have kept some of those things around, but most of the time they're going to be in 3x1 and 3x2 and 2x2 shotgun look. So they're pretty similar to what we try to do offensively.
Fantastic. Their strength in reading up on them a little bit, that offensive line, they brought almost that entire offensive line back, so that's always a plus.
Yeah, their linemen are really good size too, and I think you'll see that on Friday night. Their biggest thing is they don't have a ton of depth, but the kids they're putting out there, their lines got good size, and they look like they're pretty strong kids. And then skill guys, they have some good speed and some good athletes out there. So, they're gonna present some problems for us matchup wise, and really it will be one of the first teams, since Archibald. Van Wert and Archibald threw the ball, but I don't think they throw it quite as much as Evergreen. I think Evergreen really looks to throw the ball. So even though those two teams were spread teams, I think they tried to spread you out and run. Evergreen tries to spread you out, and they want to get the ball in the air and get it in the hands of their athletes as fast as possible.
Well, it's going to be an interesting night. Their one defensive lineman, the Seabold kid, is like 6'1", 280.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a good.
They put him at nose, and our center, poor Kyle, he's been through a couple experiences the last couple of weeks. He had Delta, he had the Veller kid who's 6'4", 300 pounds, and just strong as all get out. And that's a tough matchup for him. And then last week he had one of Swanton's better linemen that went just the opposite. He's like 150 and undersized, but just quick as all get out. And now he goes back to a kid that's another big kid that's strong and wants to try to push you and punish you. And he definitely stands out on film. I told Kyle, hey, you just got to hang in there again and keep doing what you're doing.
He's done a pretty darn nice job of it, though.
He has done a pretty good job, yeah, definitely. It's a lot of looks for a kid, and it's a tough thing because you got to get that block, and then you still got to make that snap, and that snap's the most important thing.
It has been.
That's what starts the play.
It has. And we've had a couple that have been exciting, too, those snaps every now and then, too. That slows things down when we get started. But all in all, I don't think anybody understands how difficult that position really is.
No, you don't really notice the center too much unless it's the bad snap, and then all of a sudden things become magnified. And he's done a really good job for us over the course of the season so far. And we're we're always giving him different challenges every week. We try to give him different looks in practice so that he's ready going into games. Because, like you said, he's seeing some of the better defensive linemen in the league week in and week out.
Boy, that has been. And it is difficult to go from a big guy to a little guy. I mean, it's a whole different situation if you're accustomed to fighting, as you said, against Delta one week with a big old bruiser that's coming right through you, and then you go to somebody who, guys, you're accustomed to going forward and Nick kids around you.
Yeah.
That was the weak effort that I made playing high school football was at center, and that was scary. How's that?
Yeah,
those kind of things were scary.
Try to give him some help with the guards too there, so we don't leave him on an island by himself if we can help.
No doubt about that. This is homecoming week, and that's got to be another whole situation for you guys coming back home. It's great to be home, but there's a whole lot of things going on this week too.
Yeah, man, and different opponent for homecoming. The last 15 years or whatever it's been, it's been between Wasion and PH, just depending on which one's been our home game. This will be the first time we've had Evergreen on homecoming night, and I don't even know how long. I don't know if they've ever had homecoming against Evergreen. So a little different opponent on homecoming. I think as a coach, you always worry a little bit about what your kids are doing during homecoming week and the amount of energy they're expending. I want our kids to be involved because I think ultimately it comes down to the game and, of course, the homecoming court and stuff. But, a lot of people come back to watch that game. And I want our kids to be leaders in the school with the activities and things. And at the same time, I don't want them getting all wore out. So we talk about balancing those things. And I think our kids do a pretty decent job of that.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a whole lot of fun. It's good to get off the road. I mean, those last 2 weeks were
and
rugged.
they're long trips, too.
They were. Yeah, heck yeah.
I'm getting home at 1 in the morning by the time I get back to my house. So I'll be glad to be home this week.
Then next week we get to go out of conference. I know we don't look that far ahead, but that's got that non-conference game is always kind of a fun one too. So we'll look at that one. But focus right now on Evergreen, making this thing happen, getting this thing to work. I guess we're to that point. I mean, what's it going to take to win this one this weekend?
I think for us it's going to be a lot about our pace and our tempo, and then the usual stuff where you've got to take care of the football. Like to see us come out and play right away. I still don't think we've put together 4 quarters, and for us that consistency factor gets bigger and bigger as the season goes on. At this point in time, we need to be more consistent. So I think we've got to be able to pace ourselves offensively and defensively, take care of that football like I said before, and then make sure that we are ready to play right from the beginning.
Sure.
Not have to play catch up in the second half, and if we're able to get a lead, hopefully hang on to it and finish it off.
Fantastic. Well, it's homecoming. We're going to get started at 6:15. Anybody that's up on the stream can watch the homecoming festivities before the game. We always try to do those full video. But once we get to the football game, we have to go back to the audio side of that whole process, which is a crazy situation, but we deal with those are our own personal problems that we got to deal with on our side. But 6:15, if you want to see the homecoming floats and everything, you can see it on bryansports.com. Ball game will take off at 7 o'clock. Obviously, we're looking for a big ball game that night. You can listen to everything live on bryansports.com, and you can also pick up the ball game on Saturday night on BMU Channel 3. For Coach Klein, I'm Jim Funderburg. Thanks for joining us here on The Extra Point.